And so we're going to close out our Escabona Story stage with a keynote speaker that my team has been so excited about for months as we've been working to bring Rose Mercario to the stage. We are so inspired by the work that Rose is doing and really glad that she will be able to share her story with you today. And Rose is the president and CEO of Patagonia, a company she joined in 2008 as COO and CFO. Since taking the helm as CEO, Patagonia has quadrupled its sales and profits. Rose also created the company's first in-house venture fund, oversaw the development and creation of Patagonia Provisions, an organic regenerative food company, and has championed the benefit corporation movement, resulting in Patagonia becoming the first legal benefit corporation in California. Upworthy named Rose one of the 9 most inspiring CEOs in America. President Obama honored her as a champion of change for Patagonia's family-friendly work policies. Fast Company named her one of the most creative CEOs of 2016. And just recently, Patagonia was named in the top 10 innovative companies in the world for its work in regenerative agriculture, activism, green supply chain innovation. Under her leadership, she has deepened Patagonia's commitment to environmental activism and using business as a force for good. And we're so pleased to bring Rose to the stage.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you had a good show and a nice expo. There was like so many people here. It was crazy. You know, I have so much respect for the organic pioneers and entrepreneurs and the people that built this incredible $47 billion industry. It's amazing what's been accomplished. You know, I think the industry would be like 4 times bigger if we didn't have the barriers to entry like land conversion and infrastructure. And it's our job to keep building momentum for organic and regenerative. So you built this movement, really, that like 80% of all households participate in some way in the organic marketplace. That's a big deal. You took the high road, you took the high bar, you drew a line in the soil, and I'm proud to be here with my amazing team at Patagonia, my fearless team at Patagonia, not afraid to build supply chains. And many of you know I work for an organic pioneer, legendary climber and outdoor sportsman, Yvon Chouinard. Besides our apparel business that we started 46 years ago, in 2012, we started Patagonia Provisions, a food company focused on sourcing products in innovative ways that benefit and regenerate the planet. Over 20 years ago, Yvon saw the devastation that chemical cotton agriculture was doing to people and topsoil and biodiversity. And he made a now famous and financially risky decision to convert 100% of his product line to organic cotton. It wasn't easy. It wasn't cheap. We had to establish NGOs. We had to fund startup farms. We built supply chains. And we set up certifications. And we explained the change to our customers. And we've never looked back. So we're no strangers to participating and leading big shifts and marketing them to customers, and building supply chains and certifications. And I'm really proud to say that over the last 20 years, we've been responsible for some of the most innovative green technologies and fibers and social and animal welfare initiatives in our industry. And we've influenced not just the apparel industry, but the broader fashion industry. I want to talk about regenerative organic agriculture, which everyone on this stage has been talking about in some form. You might have heard at Expo East, and I hope you take some time to learn about it at our happy hour today at 4:30. Come on by, we'll be serving Kernza beer. Yeah. And even if you're a skeptic about regenerative organic, you can come on and have some beer anyway. So I'll be there with David Bronner from Dr. Bronner's and Jeff Moyer from the Rodale Institute. We really respect the work that the Rodale Institute's done on organic and been committed to for so many years. And I'll be there with many other people who contributed and worked on the regenerative organic certification and the pilot. I just want to talk a little bit about how it came to be. David and I were at Expo West last year, and we were on a panel together. And there were people talking about the word regenerative, but they weren't using the word organic. And we started to ask this sort of fundamental question of how can practices be regenerative and when chemicals and synthetics and GM seed are being used. So it got us worried, honestly. So with the leadership of the Rodale Institute, Fair World Project, World Animal Compassion Project, soil scientists, pioneers like Michael Sly and Michael Bosanson, farmers like David Vetter and Will Harris, along with college students from 34 universities around the country, we got to work on a regenerative organic standard. And that standard would be the basis of the certification. A continuous improvement and innovation platform, raising the bar using the best possible science available on regenerative soil practices, while taking the best practices from social fairness and animal welfare and compassion. So focusing on really three pillars: soil health and regenerative practices, and social fairness and animal welfare, using USDA organic as our absolute baseline. Our aim was to build a coalition to champion a high standard and to use it to create demand in the marketplace and to co-learn and to influence policy and to hold the high bar for brands and their customers who frankly have been confused about which labels to trust. We sought public comment on the pilot. We received over 400 comments from brands, farmers, ranchers, processors, certifiers, and NGOs. We incorporated those comments into the pilot standard. We have more brands interested in piloting the standard than we have room for in the pilot. This year, we'll work on the pilot with brands who are ready to go on the journey. And we'll update anyone interested in our progress. And I just want to give you the website if you want to check it out. It's regenorganic.org. You can see the updated framework there. You can stay up to date. You can consider becoming an ally. I just want to take a couple minutes to dive into some of the science, and I think it's science, but it's also business issues that caused us to focus on regenerative organic agriculture and why we felt we needed to build on USDA organic as a continuous improvement platform. And I say build on USDA organic because we absolutely respect it, but we feel like we needed to sort of raise the bar a little bit higher and take a look at these things that are really important to the customer. So very simply put, the health of people and the planet is reliant on healthy soil, and our soil is in trouble. This is being talked about in boardrooms and in many countries and states and cities around the globe. Issues of food sovereignty, organic agriculture, seed consolidation, climate disruption. Everyone knows what's happening. The big three chemical companies control 75% of all the seed and all the pesticides. US soil is being lost at a rate of 10 times faster than it's being replenished. The rise of chemical agriculture has coincided with an alarming rise in cancer rates and allergens and diseases. Pollinators are declining at shocking rates. And I don't mean to be overly dramatic, but when the pollinators are gone, it's game over for us humans. Right now, in the US alone, we spray 300 million pounds of Roundup a year. 300 million pounds. Soil is a living thing, and we spray 300 million pounds of toxic chemicals on a microbiome so teeming with life that there are more microorganisms in a teaspoon of soil, a teaspoon, than there are people on the planet. We live in an interconnected world. There is interconnected causation. This is reckless and suicidal behavior. It brings to mind the E.B. White quote, "I would feel more optimistic about a bright future for man if he spent less time proving that he can outwit nature and more time respecting her seniority." Scientists predict that current industrial farming practices and deforestation will eliminate topsoil in 60 years. That's if we continue on the course we're on. And as grim as that picture looks, the promise of regenerative agriculture is not only a process that can rebuild topsoil, but it can really impact climate change in a positive way. And in 2014, research from the Rodale Institute estimated that if current crop acreage and pasture land shifted to regenerative organic practices, 100% of annual global CO2 emissions could be sequestered in the soil. Healthy soil acts as a sponge for carbon. I'm a practical person, so I'm going to talk about the barriers to conversion. And most of you know these already, and they've been talked about, but I just want to kind of run through a few that I think we can work together on and really help solve some of these issues. This is really about working with nature and not about poisoning and dominating nature. I'm actually optimistic that these barriers can be overcome. I'm really excited to see so much conversation around regenerative agriculture at this expo from last year to this year. It's amazing. I think with cooperation and focus, we can work with trade organizations and consumer organizations and local and federal government if we work to shape policy. The biggest hurdles are farmer conversion and the cost of financing the conversion. And we've spent a lot of time talking to funds and managers and farmers. And you know, the math works. If the investors aren't too greedy, if we take a longer view, instead of subsidizing chemical monoculture, we should be pushing for policy that subsidizes organic transition. The cost of certification. We should be pooling capital and influencing policy to help supply chains transition and convert. The other issue is education and tools, and this is a place where innovation can play a huge part. Education at the farm level, but education at the customer level too, about continuous improvement and continuing to raise the bar. I still believe in science and facts, and they should be and they should drive and influence what we do as business people. It's the responsible thing to do, and it's good for business too. Another hurdle is that there's no consolidated database for soil testing to show that we're improving soil organic matter over time instead of degrading it. This seems to me to be an effort that everyone in the supply chain could come together on, and we could monitor our baselines and our progress. Topsoil is the wealth of our nation, and we are squandering it. It's good business to take care of soil. All of our supply chains depend on it. Another thing that I want to talk about, which can be a thorny issue a little bit, but it's important to talk about, because I think sometimes we put too much pressure on consumer organizations and the OTA. Policy and activism are key, which means brands need to stand for something. We need to stand together. Organic and regenerative and ethical food production need our voices, our unequivocal voices, and our minds and our ideas and our solutions. The customer is changing. The customer is demanding it. The customer is informed. average 20-year-old has more information at their fingertips today than the president had 20 years ago. They're informed. They know what's going on. And to my friends, and I mean that sincerely, my friends in the conventional chemical agriculture movement who have brands that have chemical agriculture, I know that to make these shifts is almost impossible in the suicidal insanity of quarterly financial earning reports. But I would say maybe instead of overpaying for organic brands, you might consider just making the change in your own supply chain and investing in it. And I think your employees would be energized to spend their careers doing something really good for people and the planet. And if you're an organic, if you have an organic sub-brand in your portfolio, then come along on the journey with ROC. I think we'll all learn a lot together. And for my friends that run brands and organic brands, we have to continue to strengthen organic. We need to be more diligent about soil science and regenerative practices, social fairness and animal compassion, more stringent about policing fraud. We're not perfect at Patagonia. And we are not even, as a brand, we're not even there yet to this own standard that we developed. But we know it's where we need to go. And we want to have a world worth living in based on all the information that we have right now. If we want to look into the eyes of our children and our grandchildren and say we saw the gathering storm and we acted and we innovated, I ask you for the sake of people and the planet to embrace innovation and regeneration that will lead us to a new economy, not one based on algorithmic prices, the lowest possible price. Pushing organic prices so low will only hurt the farmer and the worker and the land. It's analogous to what we see in the apparel industry. If you buy a $2 t-shirt, you can pretty much guarantee that the person who made that shirt, human rights were violated and that the environment was harmed. The revolution is here. We can't come to an expo like this and pretend the status quo is acceptable anymore. Not when we know what we know. If we lose the planet, if we destroy topsoil and the well-being of people and animals, it'll be on our watch. We can't live in the gray area. We can't wait and see and play it safe. We have to act now. Coming together is really powerful. Coming together is transformational. We don't have to be held hostage by 3 chemical companies. There is a lot of strength and unbelievable power in our diversity. It's not time to step up, to stand back. It's time to step up and to be bold. One of my favorite quotes is that the world's changed by our actions and not our opinions. It's time to act boldly, just like the organic pioneers did. And I just want to say in conclusion, I work for a man who's famous for saying how you climb a mountain is more important than reaching the top. And he has made some of the most breathtaking first ascents in the world. And what I've learned from him over the last 10 years is that the process is really step by step. But you have to know where you're going, and you have to be brave. And pretty soon you've first ascended a mountain that no one else has climbed. If you really want to protect people and the planet, it starts with food. It's time for us to stand together for a healthy economy that's good for people and good for the planet. I'm so grateful for this time. Please come by, have a beer with us, and let's talk about how to make a better world. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.